we live? We're live. Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show. At least I hope you are. WakeUpAmericaShow.com. How we doing? We made it. Looks like we made it. Thank you. Big thank you. We've got to give another round of applause. Push the applause button again for my smoking hot redheaded libertarian wife, Stephanie, who's sitting on the edge of the desk. You can't see her, but who got her butt up this morning and drove as quickly as she could to make it to the studio because the internet is down in the studio. We have the internet down. The internet is down. I was thinking I might have to stream it through my mobile phone, which was not looking good. But she made it here with the router. I don't know how good that's going to be. I'm just going to do the best we can because we've got to do a show today. Vivek goes Hulk mode last night in the GOP debate. Oh my God. Talk about civilian casualties. Man, he was just leaving bodies all over the place. Oh, well, they're not properly uniformed soldiers, but still, we'll just say a little collateral damage in war. It is what it is. Of course, we're going to go through all of the awesome clips of Vivek Ramaswamy. You know what people need to say now, just like with Vivek? He's just telling you what you want to hear, Austin. He's just telling you what you want to hear. Oh, well, I don't give a crap. I want to hear what I want to hear. I'm sick of hearing stuff that I don't want to hear because that's mostly what I hear from politicians. What about you? Tell me what I want to hear. In the text line at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Text line is open night or day. Rock. God, you love that rock riff, don't you? Again, the text line is 573-319-1586. Somebody sent me a text message of Vivek Ramaswamy. Wake up with his notepad from last night. It says, Wake Up America show with AP for Liberty, 7 to 9 God's time. That's hilarious. Hold on. I don't know if I can pull this up on the screen or not, but let me see if I can do it without doxing the person who sent it to me because I don't want to show their phone number. Hold on. I can see if I can get it full. There we go. Yes. Hold on. Here we go. Full screen. There it is. Wake Up America show with whoever sent me that. You rock. Look at this. I'm in a good mood today. It was exciting to see all these amazing clips of Vivek Ramaswamy last night. Who sent me that? Was that Lutrike? No, that was, I don't know who it was, but whoever it was rocks. We appreciate you very much. Do me a favor, click the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you know what's good for you, come back and join us every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Here we stream the Wake Up America show live. We appreciate all of our listeners who are joining us live here this morning. Are you guys ready to get to the clips, huh? The first one is going to strike you perhaps as a little bit odd if you don't spend a lot of time perpetually online. I would imagine, though, that for people who watch the show, if you're savvy enough to be able to use Rumble and to join us here on this show, you're probably pretty tech savvy. So you might have heard of this thing called the Great Replacement Theory. Are you guys familiar with this? And what the Great Replacement Theory is, of course, depends on who you ask. Because everywhere that I look to try and find an official source that's unbiased about the Great Replacement Theory, there just is no such thing. Every single source, and admittedly, we're talking about Wikipedia, CBS, Wall Street Journal, like these are all sort of mainstream news sources that are never going to look at something like this unbiased. But I will simply say that the Great Replacement Theory is the idea that the elites are trying to replace white Anglos, Europeans at large with immigrant populations, people trying to replace white people like me and you demographically and culturally with people who are not white. This is called the Great Replacement Theory. And Vivek Ramaswamy brought it up in last night's debate. Let's take a listen. I was kind of surprised to hear this from Vivek. Take a listen to this.
I think the real enemy is not Donald Trump. It's not even Joe Biden. It is the deep state that at least Donald Trump attempted to take on. And if you want somebody who's going to speak truth to power, then vote for somebody who's going to speak the truth to you. Why am I the only person on the stage, at least, who can say that January 6th now does look like it was an inside job, that the government lied to us for 20 years?
Well, you got to know. You got to know that all the Never Trump neocons are listening to that. All the leftists are like, they are not happy to hear Vivek saying that. But I agree. I don't think 9/11 was an inside job. But I do think January 6th was an inside job. See, I'm not entirely completely devoid of conspiracy theories. Let's continue.
About Saudi Arabia's involvement in 9/11, that the Great Replacement theory is not some grand right-wing conspiracy theory, but a basic statement of the Democratic Party's platform, that the 2020 election was indeed stolen by big tech, that the 2016 election, the one that Trump won for sure, was also one that was stolen from him by the national security establishment that actually put up the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that they knew was false. There's a reason why I'm the only person on the stage who can say these things. That's what
won't do it. Shut up, bitch. Don't you interrupt Vivek. While he's Vivek, don't you woman-splain to Vivek Ramaswamy. Good God, there's a lot to unpack in there. But the best reaction from that had to been, thank you, by the way, Joni Rankin, for sending this clip to me. This is Van Wilder, no, Van Jones on CNN last night talking about how he was literally shaking hearing Vivek talk about this.
And the smug, condescending way that he just spews this poison out is very, very dangerous because
smug and condescending. I mean, here's the thing. Every single attack that's being leveled at Vivek Ramaswamy are the exact same things that people said against me when I ran for president in 2016. Maybe another reason why I like him even more, but to see Van Jones and others attacking him like this, it's just so delicious. Chef's kiss. Wait a minute. Where's my porno queen? Oh, there she is. Thank you.
because he won't stop Trump, but he's going to outlive Trump by about 50 years. And you're watching the rise of an American demagogue that is a very, very despicable person. Yeah. And I was shaking listening to him talk because a lot of people don't know that is one step away from Nazi propaganda coming out of his mouth.
Yeah, but the good that's one step away from Nazi propaganda coming out of his mouth. You know when they're calling you Nazis that you're winning. Good morning. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm Austin Peterson. Say something about his pimp hand, Austin. Pimp hand strong. How dare you? We're having a great time here on the show, but we can have a better time if we get more friends to come in here and join us. The best way to make that happen, click that like button. And if it's your first time here watching the show, make sure you subscribe to the channel and come back and join us every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. That's and you can text the show at 573-319-1586. One listener just texted into the show a little bit of spin that was going on last night in the debate. I haven't seen this clip just yet, so listen, I'm going to play it for you raw. We're going in raw. Sorry about this, but Stephanie's like, yeah. All right. I'm not sure what this clip is, but somebody sent it to me, said it was important. Guess what? We're going to watch it together for the first time, and hopefully there's nothing crazy or weird. Here we go.
Anyway, we have a little clip of some of the opening questions to them. Let's watch.
We begin with the question of electability. Governor DeSantis, your campaign and its super PAC have spent the most money, had the most high net worth donors, and had a wave of momentum coming into this race after your big re-election win in Florida.
Look at that face.
You were seen by many as the candidate most likely to consolidate the non-Trump field. But here we are, a month out from the first real votes, and you haven't managed to do it.
Dude, so, okay, that's hot mic there, right? So Megyn Kelly and Real Clear News, they were kind of making fun of Ron DeSantis' physical appearance. It's quite possible that they didn't know their mics were on, can potentially be recorded or slip out, right? There's microphones everywhere in here. They may not all be on, but you're always disciplined to think that the mic's probably on. They probably said this and meant it, right? So hold on, you can kind of hear them talking under their breath.
Spent the most money, had the most high net worth donors, and had a wave of momentum coming into this race after your big re-election win in Florida.
Look at that face.
You were seen by many as the candidate most likely to consolidate the non.
Looks like he shot his dog. Ooh. They were apparently not very impressed with Ron DeSantis. He does have, look at his face. He does look like he's very unhappy in the, and that's the thing. I think he is unhappy. I think Ron DeSantis is not enjoying himself. Or while you got Vivek Ramaswamy out there who looks like he's having a hell of a good time. Am I wrong?
It's not even Joe Biden. It is the deep state that at least Donald Trump attempted to take on. And if you want somebody who's going to speak truth to power, then vote for somebody who's going to speak the truth to you. Why am I the only person on the stage, at least, who can say that January 6th now does look like it was an inside job, that the government lied to us for 20 years about Saudi Arabia's involvement in 9/11, that the Great Replacement theory is not some grand right-wing conspiracy theory, but a basic statement of the Democratic Party's platform, that the 2020 election was indeed stolen by big tech, that the 2016 election.
Okay, pause. So he says 2020 election was stolen by big tech, and probably what he means by that, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I have to guess here. But I think what he means by that is that big tech colluded with big government and the deep state in order to prevent Donald Trump from winning the election. For example, the suppression of the Hunter Biden laptop theory, because we saw the post-election polling. If people knew that the Hunter Biden laptop story was real, then it could have potentially flipped the general election to Donald Trump. That's possibly what Vivek is talking about. Just my guess. What do you think, though? I'd love to hear your thoughts. 573-319-1586. But this next part here, I think, is really interesting, and we should dissect it here.
The one that Trump won for sure was also one that was stolen from him by the national security establishment that actually put up the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that they knew was false.
Okay, so when he talks about the 2016 election being stolen from him, it was because of the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that Trump was spending his entire 4 years having to deal with attacks from the deep state, that he was somehow in bed with Russia. And so he wasn't able to get his agenda across. Now, listen, dirty politics is what it is. We should expect these kinds of shenanigans and chicanery going on in our electoral system. If you think, you must be new to politics if you think that things like that aren't going to happen. However, it's good that he points it out, and we should learn this strategy in order to be able to combat it in the future. I'm really excited to hear from Cliff Maloney this morning. He's going to be joining us here in like 6 or 7 minutes. Because I'm excited to hear what his debate reaction was. I saw Vivek Ramaswamy actually retweeted Cliff Maloney last night. He also retweeted me too twice, which was exciting. I'm excited to hear what Cliff Maloney has to say this morning about Vivek Ramaswamy. He's a fellow liberty lubber. You land lubbers, liberty lovers. Slow down, Austin. You'll speak more clearly. He's a fellow liberty lover, and he'll be joining us this morning in about 5 minutes.
You were bankrupt when back you scratched for a very long time, and then gave foreign multinational speeches like Hillary Clinton is, and now you're a multimillionaire. That math does not add up. It adds up to the fact that you are corrupt. And when I said they were bought and paid for, I meant the Republican establishment, just supporters. Larry Fink, the king of the woke industrial complex, the ESG movement, the CEO of BlackRock, the most powerful company in the world, now supporting Nikki Haley. And to say that doesn't affect her is false, because it's after that meeting later that day.
The razor blades underneath his tongue, and he whips them out, and he's like, it's so awesome. Give it up for Vivek. Coming up next, Cliff Maloney reacts. And that's not even half of all the debate clips that I've got. We've got so much more to go. Camelia Peterson joins us on the show. Daniela Pensack. Oh, it's going to be so damn good. Don't you dare go away. We'll be right back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Goose Lodge in Jamestown, Kansas, your home away from home. Choose the comfort and privacy of our individual rooms, each equipped with its very own locking door and en-suite facilities. Or bring the whole family and make memories in our communal space. Snuggle up on our plush recliners or share a meal around the dining table that comfortably seats 8. Our kitchen is armed with everything you need, from a microwave to a full-size fridge. For a bird's eye view, book the Eagle's Nest. Enjoy the privacy, storage space, and its very own toilet and shower. For just $450 a night, reserve the entire lodge, perfect for reunions or retreats, accommodating up to 8 guests. And remember, Snow Goose Lodge is a haven for kids and dogs alike, so bring the whole family. Book your stay now and get 20% off your first booking using the code WAKEUP. It was 1946. A battle was fought, not overseas, but right here on American soil. The Battle of Athens, an intense struggle against election fraud and for the rights promised by our founding fathers. Driven by the Second Amendment, ordinary citizens stood tall and fought back. Help us expose this momentous battle of integrity and bravery. Your support can make a difference. Visit givesendgo.com/bleedamerican and pledge your support, because we believe in the power of truth, the strength of unity, and the spirit of we the people. Let us not forget, we bleed American.
Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
She said that I have a woman problem. Nikki, I don't have a woman problem. You have a corruption problem. And I think that that's what people need to know. Nikki is corrupt. This is a woman who will send your kids to die so she can buy a bigger house. This is the problem, using identity politics more effectively than Kamala Harris.
Nikki is corrupt. Good morning. Austin Peterson here on the Wake Up America show. We're glad to have you here last night. It's the only Republican who's joining us live right now.
You're not fighting. Peterson says that. He's like, let's really dive in here and understand like what is going on. And so I thought that obviously Vivek, when it comes to some of the key issues, climate change, military industrial complex, talking about mental health, I think he's hitting. I mean, heck, he even tried to go into the Fed again, and it seemed as if they were kind of, moving away. DeSantis has the same problem. Okay. And that problem is that while we probably agree with him on a lot of issues, and while he probably is America's best governor, he struggles to connect. You just have this guy who's a little quirky, he's a little odd, and it actually kind of kills me a little bit because I like him a lot. You know, I lived in Florida under the COVID tyranny, and it was a great place to be, and I give him a lot of credit. But I think that his inability to connect is problematic. And then when you look at Christie and Haley, I mean, I despise Nikki Haley. I think we can celebrate is the Republicans, right? So watching Nikki Haley worries the heck out of me because it's like, where does she? Because I do look at him as, you know, George Bush 2.0 as well. But Chris Christie took a talking point, and if you watch the post game, it was a guy who tells the truth. I get right to the truth. I'm telling the truth. The truth and telling it is what's important. That was his whole talking point. And so in a world of these sound bites, I think it resonates. Not with people that are ideologues, but I do think that the 10 to 20% of people that were watching who are kind of just tired of a lot of the noise, he seems rational. And I think he's all in against Trump. That's his whole campaign. I don't think he will win at all. And I actually hope he stays in as long as possible, because the second he drops, they ain't going to DeSantis. They're not going to Trump. They're not going to Ramaswamy. They will go to Nikki Haley.
Sort of analyze what's happening for strength is waning in the Republican Party. My argument for that, the reason that's happening, Cliff, would be because so many of the neocons have actually left the Republican Party. The Bill Kristols, the Lincoln Project.
The debate last night with Al Vivek. I mean, as much as I think Ron DeSantis is not a neocon, and I think he's been incorrectly labeled as Swami's down on the stage. It's just probably DeSantis pushing back a little bit. Chris Christie saying we should have sent twice as many people in on 9/11. And Nikki Haley saying that, you know, we should institute the draft and be in Ukraine and Israel tomorrow. I mean, that would be the conversation. So do we need to show up? Absolutely. Now, would I say it just has to be in the GOP? You know, me and you have done this over the years where it's like, well, maybe there's a battle to be had in the Democrat Party. Maybe there's a battle to be had in the leadership of the Libertarian Party. But I think, yes, we should call Nikki Haley. Dick Cheney with lipstick on still is a fascist. Like, that's an idea to us about weapons of mass destruction. These are the folks who now put us $7 trillion in debt. These are the folks that put us in a 20
Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. He is a former Ron Paul and Rand Paul staffer. Most rhetoric is actually more in line or closer to where the base of the Republican Party is at these days. And if so, does that mean that the base of the GOP has a very strong libertarian streak that's more represented by Vivek Ramaswamy and perhaps even tangentially Donald Trump?
And this is why I think you're going to see results that I would say that Ramaswamy will overperform in states like Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, because I do think in those debate rooms, look, I've been to these debates, right, with Vivek. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to, you know, destroy them. I mean, Trump is going to win. He'll win, I think, every single state. But what'll be interesting to see is, you know, who's able to win the support from these other folks. And this is what I have to say, you know, about your question, Austin, is I don't necessarily think he's some hardcore libertarian. I think Vivek just represents the Republican platform. The problem is so many of these neocons and these what I'll call just fake Republicans, they don't represent the Republican platform, right? You know this. We know this. We've seen Republicans run for years on lower taxes, cutting spending. They get in to do the opposite. But what I always percent of the federal bureaucracy, that is not draining the swamp. But he learned, and I believe this, I believe he did want to get rid of a lot of the corruption within the federal bureaucracy. But as we saw, he wasn't able to do a lot of it. Vivek, by being so bold and saying he wants to cut, so one of the most pro-liberty candidates we've had on.
So Trump wins every state. I agree. Ron DeSantis supporters at this point seemed tonight, which I was like, okay, finally, here's the Ron DeSantis I want to hear. You know, this is my guy here to this extent. I just think that he wasn't ready for prime time. DeSantis are cosmetic rather than policy. But there have been some authoritarian things that Ron DeSantis has done that have not sat well with me. And in my analysis,
I want to be clear about that. Due to some legal situation, he's not going to be the nominee. That's debate here, right? It's the what if well, you know, I understand. I don't really see the path for that, right? Even if he's convicted, he's going to run. I mean, does anybody not believe that, right? So where the guy might not make it due to health reasons. I'm talking about Biden. And the other guy might not make it due to legal reasons. Or I guess, yeah, almost a year from now. So do I think we should throw our support behind Vivek? I think that people should continue to elevate those that they agree with. I think it takes a lot of organization in places like Iowa, New Hampshire. I mean, in Iowa, I've been there. It's something that Trump has shown us before, and it just matters. He's a great communicator. He's young. He's a minority. I think this idea that it has to be a woman or it has to be some Republican governor is just a bunch of hogwash. I don't believe that for a second. It's 2023. It'll be 2024. People want something fresh and new. If they could elect Mike Pence as VP, I think Vivek is a much stronger pick. Your final question, can Trump win? Message, I think the Republicans win the White House. I think he pulls it off. The abortion issue is going to be a big one. The Democrats are already all in, and the Republicans are going to have to figure out how do they message back to that. But everything else, and I mean almost everything else, the border, the economy, talking about these wars, the vast majority of Americans, and especially
Cliff, tell us very briefly before we let you go what you're doing in Pennsylvania and anything else that you'd like our listeners to know before we let you go.
Sure. So in Pennsylvania, we run a group, Citizens Alliance, and what we've launched is something called the Pennsylvania Chase. The Republican Party has failed us both at the national and state level, and so we have all these liberty candidates running, and the Democrats crush us on mail-in voting, 80% to 20% since they've installed this in 2020. CliffMaloney.com/chase. Check it out. We're going to be sending tons of Liberty Warriors into the state, knocking on 500,000 doors. CliffMaloney.com/chase.
She said that he is corrupt. This is a woman who will send your kids to die so she can buy a bigger house.
My leg.
This is the problem. Using identity politics more effectively than Kamala Harris is a form of intellectual fraud. And it actually needs to end. There's our donor puppet masters wielding their puppets.
This is some good God. Woo, jeez, this is good stuff. This is such good stuff. Matt Unruh doesn't want to go to his work meeting. I don't blame you. I wouldn't either. No, maybe you can stay here covertly. Yes, you need one of those Apple iPods you could possibly have as well from the debate last night. Vivek had all the best moments.
At home to note that I was the first person to say we need a reasonable peace deal in Ukraine. Now a lot of the neocons are quiet in Ukraine. And I think those with foreign plan, these people it takes an outsider to see this.
Austin Peterson and Gary Johnson in 2016. Oh my God, Vivek! I've 1 million pit bulls because they're a breed that shouldn't exist. If you're enjoying the Wake Up America show, why haven't you clicked like or subscribe? Or send us a text message. You can text the show anytime, night or day. 573. I just lost half. At 573-319-1586. Nice moment from Ron DeSantis last night. Let's take a listen. Oh, that's the wrong clip. Where the hell is Ron DeSantis? What the heck? I had the Ron DeSantis clip. Oh, here we go.
Reagan, Washington, Lincoln, excellent. One of the guys I'll take inspiration from is Calvin Coolidge. Now, people don't talk about him a lot. He's one of the few presidents that got almost everything right. He understood the proper role of the federal government under the Constitution.
There you go. You know what it is? Somebody told Ron DeSantis, his handlers were like, you're losing the Austin Peterson support. You need to come out in favor of Calvin Coolidge because Austin has been beating you up online the last few weeks. And so DeSantis's team got the memo and said, hey, we need to shore the Austin Peterson, including this really cool Camelback water bottle, which you can get at ap4libertyshop.com. Not only do we have cool water bottles like that, but do yourself a favor, not just me, and go to our website and just type in Coolidge and see what happens. If you go in the search bar, you type in Coolidge, look at all the awesome Calvin Coolidge merchandise. We got a Keep Cool with Coolidge whiskey glass, Coolidge teas. We've got somebody actually bought our awesome legal robbery quote for the with the synthwave style of the painting for the wall. We've also got Coolidge is my homeboy hoodies, Coolidge ceramic mugs. And somebody asked for it in an infant size, so you can get a Coolidge is my homeboy for your kiddo. And of course, Stephanie, my lovely wife, and I wrote the Coolidge book, the Coolidge children's book, which you can get autographed. Calvin the Coolest President book by Austin and Steffi Peterson. And remember, that price that you're seeing right there is delivered to your front door because shipping in the United States is free. Can I get an amen for that? So there you go. So if you're a Calvin Coolidge fan, check out ap4libertyshop.com. And of course, don't forget, we have new All-American custom metal signs. And FYI, we're having a giveaway this week. We're going to give away a free custom metal sign. And here's how you can enter to win. All you have to do is go to the website and go to one of the custom signs in Twitter. You come over here, see where it says want it to be in 12 inches, and then the name, what name we'd like to put on there. We could do Wake to win a free custom sign from our shop. So head over to ap4libertyshop.com today. Get yourself some Calvin Coolidge merchandise. Design your own sign. Tweet it at me at AP for Liberty, and you will be entered to win, and we will do that giveaway. Coolidge merch and some Founding Flavors coffee. And Camelia is pinging me saying, you haven't pinged me yet, have you? No, I have not pinged. On Epstein's plane twice on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
The Cantina crew, this is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. Our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
Government control and regulation. Well, out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors, what would I do if no one was on the other?
You weren't ever on Jeffrey Epstein's jet, were you?
I was on Jeffrey Epstein's jet 2 times. I was hunting for a weekend, and but otherwise, I was never on his jet alone. I've been very open about this from the beginning. This was in '93, so it was 30 years ago. It was before anybody knew about it.
Good morning. I'm Austin Peterson, riding on Jeffrey Epstein's plane twice, very carefully saying that he was with his family both times and that he had no idea what was going on. Lovely Camelia Peterson, who is joining us. Nice, for sure. Real briefly, we are having a little bit of internet, so if the screen is, we'll do our best to try and get the internet working by tomorrow morning. So please don't blame Rumble. It is our fault today. I know Rumble sometimes have problems, but that is our issue. So anyways, Camelia, the clip that I just played showed RFK Jr. being very careful in explaining his relationship, but when he talked about the relationship that his wife had with Ghislaine Maxwell, he kind of brushed that under the rug pretty quickly. Did you notice that?
Right, and I think he phrased it in such a way as like she had some kind of relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell. Like I don't know what that means, and maybe he didn't know everything that his wife did or didn't do or anything about her friends. it's a different class of people. You know what I'm saying?
Relationship that his.
But I will say, RFK has, I mean, he's also kind of been the black sheep of the family. So maybe I don't know, maybe he does have a little bit of outsider cred when it comes to those circles of people. He did point out, notice he did point out that this is back in 1993. When he said that was 30 years ago, I was like, oh my gosh, really? That's a long time. But I guess I would take him at his word for now, and that he really didn't know, or maybe he didn't have any inclination that this stuff was going on with Epstein. It's hard to say, but I'd say it is probably kind of believable.
He says Mary knew Epstein's girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, who learned that they were going to Palm Beach for Easter and offered the family a ride. There have been connections between. What this really just goes to show is how incestuous the relationship between our elites are. I mean, it's not like
for sure.
It's not like there's millions and millions of billionaires and powerful people. I mean, there's really only just maybe thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands of actual elites in this country, and they all know each other and they all hang out. They all help each other out, don't they?
The more you realize how small that circle actually is it doesn't seem that way, but the more you get into it and the more people you know and connect with people that you would not have ever thought previously possible, because that circle is relatively small. And I'm sure, and obviously even smaller in their case.
Well, how much support do you think RFK Jr. is getting at this moment? Do you think that it's realistic to see that he might be getting double digits in a national election? I mean, he does have to get on the ballot in some of these states. I think people don't really recognize that.
And so I just have a feeling
way, and a lot can happen, and the candidates for the parties aren't set in stone per se. They're more like, written on parchment, and parchment can be torn up and thrown away. We'll see. True. However, for our listeners who are just tuning in this morning, good morning. We're glad to have you here. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for being patient through some of our internet tech issues this morning. We appreciate that you're still sticking around with us. If you'd like, you can send us a text on the show at 573-319-1586. And we'd love to earn your like and subscribe here on the Rumble channel. We appreciate Rumble and subscribing to Steffi for that. Camelia, the next thing that I have here to talk to you about on this list, did you get enough time to read this next story about
I did.
That came out with Matthew McConaughey like 10 years ago called Failure to Launch, about a 35-year-old guy who lived on his parents' couch and played video games all day and never was serious. And then the woman comes in and whips him into shape. Sarah Jessica, I know you haven't seen it because you're a pop culture. What would we call you? We call you an atheist, a pop culture atheist in
oh
sense?
Gosh, maybe so. Agnostic.
Yeah, and maybe you can give us your take on Taylor Swift appearing on the cover of Time magazine. She's in good company with Adolf Hitler.
Lord. You know what? I'm sorry, but like more power to, and nobody can deny that. And it doesn't matter if you like her music or not. And she owns it. And like
I posted a few weeks ago on Instagram where it was like all these girls who were like,
right.
And there's communal family members and
although I think it was more down, had no insurance, so he moves back in with mom and dad, and he's got some side gigs and odd jobs, that he thinks are still in his skill set, but it's not enough to cover him. And I think therein lies the problem, is that we're probably getting to a point where we have an overeducated populace. And DeSantis said that really caught my seeing the existing election laws that we don't like to our advantage. So when he talked about using all of those, I always think of Henry David Thoreau whenever he said that his preference is, like the government is best that governs, not at all. And when men are prepared for it, and hearing people say this idea that we get the government we deserve, and so much of what you hear, especially on the right now, is griping about how it's everybody else's fault. It's the deep state. It's this. It's that. It's out. I mean, okay, but you can either choose to complain about it and criticize people who are working on it, or you can choose to be part of the solution, even if you think that solution is not perfect. So it's better to do something. And I think it's time to take responsibility for it. I mean, with liberty comes responsibility. And if we're going to sit back and armchair quarterback things and complain about them, but not actually take responsibility for talking to our friends and neighbors and persuading people and getting out and doing the work, then you get what you deserve.
I love to see it. Camellia Peterson, anything else you want to share with our listeners before we let you go today?
Well, just one little thing. So I do have to decide now, by the way, I have to investigate whether or not my daughters are fully anti-Semitic. I don't know. Who knew? Like apparently TikTok does this to you. For like every 30 minutes that you watch, you're 17% more anti-Semitic. Like, did you know this?
No, I did not know
So the
this.
thing is, like, I can tell you that, well, you know, you can look it up. I learned that last night during the debate.
Oh, yeah.
But so what I can tell you is that my older daughter showed me how that she learned on TikTok that she can break an apple in half with her bare hands. And I thought, like, you know, the internet is great.
Camellia Peterson, she joins us every Tuesday and Thursday here on the show. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you. We appreciate you, Camellia.
Have a great day, everyone.
Have a great day. What did you guys think of Camellia Peterson? Give her a round of applause. Click like and subscribe.
Chris, your version of foreign policy experience was closing a bridge from New Jersey to New York. Yeah. So do everybody a favor. Just walk yourself off that stage, enjoy a nice meal, and get the hell out of this race. Chris, your version of foreign policy experience was closing a bridge from New Jersey to New York. Yeah. So do everybody a favor. Just walk yourself off that stage, enjoy a nice meal, and get the hell out of this race.
Walk yourself off that stage, enjoy a nice meal. You gotta give it up. For Vivek. God, that is some good stuff. We've got lots more great show to go. Daniela Pensack is going to be joining us here in a little less than 10 minutes. Exciting stuff. We're looking forward to hearing from her. She wants to comment on California Governor Gavin Newsom canceling public Christmas tree lightings amid planned pro-Palestinian protests. We call this the heckler's veto. A heckler's veto means that someone, by being loud, by being obnoxious, by putting themselves in between a public speaker or an event and the people who want to participate in the event or want to hear, they can effectively veto out the person from being heard, and that's called a heckler's veto. That appears to be what's going on around the country. Not only is this happening in California, but I saw Virginia, for example, canceled a public menorah lighting because of fears of pro-Gaza protests that might happen. It just goes to show that free speech is something that must always be protected in the United States. It's not a guarantee. Just because we have a First Amendment doesn't mean that the First Amendment is going to be respected by our government leaders. I'm looking forward to hearing from Daniela Pensack about that in a little less than 10 minutes. Make sure that you click like and subscribe to the channel. PRidge62 says that the internet is not doing well. Sorry about that. That is partially our fault, although it is in the green right now. While we have her to thank for the show happening at all, because without her, we definitely would not be able to even have the audio as we have it. So thank you to Stephanie. Click like and subscribe for Steffi P. She'll be joining us here on the show tomorrow for Freedom Family Friday, which we're all looking forward to. Anyways, I just really like that Vivek's segment where he talks about telling Chris Christie to go have a meal. Get off the stage, go have a meal. What do you think that he's going to eat? Jimmy John's? Blimpies? Subway? Chinese buffet? What is Chris Christie's favorite meal, would you say? A succulent Chinese meal? Gentlemen.
Yeah, he probably just eats the bags of chips late at night. He sneaks food.
He just sneaks food. Okay, yes. This is Democracy Manifest. Gentlemen, why are you arresting me? For eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal? Do you guys know? He's getting thrown out of a Chinese restaurant for dining and dashing.
Just a moment. You just assured me that I could speak.
Sit down inside the car. We're not assuring anything. We're under arrest.
Look, I'm under what? Gentlemen, this is Democracy Manifest. Have a look at the headlock here. See that chap over there? Get your For what reason? What is the charge? Eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal? Oh, that's a nice headlock, sir. Oh, yes. I see that you know your judo well. Good one. And you, sir, Are you waiting to receive my limp penis? Now, get your hands off me.
No, we've only got one.
Ta-ta and farewell.
So it gets getting into
No, oops, where's the laughter track? There we go. Are you waiting to receive my limp penis? Yes. Donovan says, Austin, if you turn off the animated background and make it a static image, you'll reduce your bandwidth. Thank you for letting me know that. I tell you what, I'm going to do that right now, turning off the backgrounds on the show so that we do not have all of the bandwidth. Thank you for that tip, by the way. Appreciate that. Where last Christmas I gave you my heart, the very next day you gave it away. This year, to save you from tears, give it to somebody special. Last Christmas, there it is. I gave you my heart the very next. We'll be right back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com.
Expansive time, a year might seem like a mere moment, but oh, what a year it's been. In September 2022, Austin and Stephanie Peterson embarked on a journey to wake up America. They began humbly, with just 20 souls tuning in, learning, listening, and though challenges arose, like the looming shadow of YouTube demonetization, their spirit never waned. And now, thanks to you, thousands rise with the sun to join them, to listen, to engage, to be a part of a community. So here's to you, and to Wake Up America, for memories shared, for friends made, for the journey ahead, and for never, ever forgetting to rise and freedom. Happy anniversary.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket, capital murder.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day's Liberty Luffy.
We're Glen AM Central Time. We stream Central Time here, but my next guest lives on the West Coast. She'd say it's the best coast. I might disagree. We'll hear from her, though, here in just a moment. Daniela Pensack is our regular guest every Thursday at 8 a.m. Central Time, and we haven't seen her in a couple of weeks, so we'll be glad to welcome her back live now. Good morning, Daniela. How are you?
Good morning.
Glad to have you here, Daniela. Thanks very much for that. Daniela, I'm reading the news. You sent me the story about Gavin Newsom canceling a public Christmas tree lighting. This is the second big story that I've seen in this one, where last week a Hanukkah candle lighting ceremony in Virginia was also canceled.
And trying to tag Jewishness, but this next story, at least of what's happening in California, and the story that I brought up is that the tree lighting ceremony that happens annually has been canceled, and Gavin Newsom decided to do it virtually because of pro-Palestinian protesters. They were threatening to attend. They were threatening Gavin Newsom himself as well, and so the California Highway Patrol has completely barricaded the area and the state capitol. We know that a similar Christmas tree lighting ceremonies have been canceled in other states such as New York, Massachusetts, and Michigan, and like you had mentioned, it's happening with this Hanukkah celebrations as well. So it's really concerning what's happening. Obviously, it's concerning it's coming home to roost. This is what happens when you always listen to these kind of people and let them dictate what you can or cannot celebrate. Obviously, an attack.
Hear stories like this, it makes me outrage, right? There's not a lot that offends me other than communism, statism, and socialism, but this is pure totalitarianism. This is a betrayal of our most basic values as Americans of freedom of religion, is it not?
Of course it is. Yeah, and it's a complete, not only is it a complete attack, it's a complete attack on the First Amendment completely, full stop. And I believe that the First Amendment obviously is, I think, I think it's my favorite amendment. I think it's obviously a lot of people's favorite amendment. You know, it's one that we should protect. We should still observe culturally, not only legally. And so if it does crumble culturally and we see these governors are supposed to be the leaders of the state, at least subtly. So we should really be aware of this happening and take a stand against it. I'm glad that, obviously not the majority of states are capitulating to this, but the more this occurs, the more this danger is going to.
It's only about his safety. What do you think?
Oh, this is what I said. This is what I mean when I said the liberal chickens are coming home to roost. Perhaps it wasn't clear, but yes, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist here, but I do think there is somewhat of a political angle as well. Also, if you noticed, the states that have been canceling Christmas tree lighting ceremonies tend to be a little bit more liberal. You see New York, you see Massachusetts, California. So I am not surprised that they are utilizing this to, I'm not going to say directly attack Christmas, but kind of just like, put it under the rug, try to make a more secular society. I think that makes complete sense. I think that they're taking an opportunistic stride in this. And so I wouldn't be surprised at all if this is what these governors are doing whatsoever, unfortunately. But we've been seeing this attack on Christmas for years now. It has been on the forefront of the cultural discourse. So I wouldn't be surprised.
For sure. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. I'm speaking to Daniela Pensack. She is a field coordinator for Turning Point USA, and she joins us here live on the show every Thursday at 8 a.m. Central Time. Click like and subscribe. If you're enjoying her content, make sure that you set a calendar appointment on your Google Calendar or whatever digital calendar that you use to say, I'd like to hear from Daniela again. So make sure you set that calendar appointment for Thursdays at 8 a.m. Central Time, because then you can hear from her, and of course follow her over on Twitter/X at Pensack Daniela. That's her username over there. Daniela, you've got another story that you shared with us last night about a documentary on Netflix. This is the headline from the Federalist. Netflix's ahistorical Ibram X. Kendi documentary is more racist and radical than you can imagine. What's the story here?
Yes, Netflix has graced us once again with another wonderful film documentary. It's called Stamped from the Beginning, and it is based on a book of the same name written by Ibram X. Kendi. For those of you that are unaware, he is a race activist. He's a professor, very liberal. I'm sure you can get the picture there if you just look up his Wikipedia page. But what the book and the documentary is about is discussing anti-Blackness for the last 6 centuries and how racism has been cultivated in the Occidental West. And so this is what this documentary is mainly about. It's talking about anti-Blackness and how whites are terrible, terrible people. And as a monolith block, whites are horrible. And so obviously this is before I even get into what the segments are about, I just want to say this is half truths. Like for instance, I'm just going to give one example here. There's a plethora though, but one of the examples is in the segment of the documentary, it mentions that Prince Henry of Portugal, or Henry the Navigator as he's known, traveled to Africa to enslave Africans, and he tried to find a justification to enslave them. Well, that's completely false. He actually had his expedition to Africa was a religious one. He wanted to find Christian converts to combat the rise of the Ottoman Empire at the time. It was a religious expedition. It had nothing to do with slavery. And also, you don't really need justification for slavery in the 1400s. It was quite common back then. So you're going to find a lot of these little mistruths in the film. This is why I call it a propaganda film. Ibram X. Kendi also wanted an all-Black female narration cast. It's a series of Black female narrators, so you can look forward to that. But it's a little bit, I don't know, it doesn't hit as strong when they say lines like, Thomas Jefferson is full of shit. I know it's a family show, so I'm not going to say it out loud, but you can expect stuff like that in the film. It's once again, it's called Stamped from the Beginning. If it already came out on November 20th, but if you're a glutton for punishment and you have Netflix, I encourage you to watch it. It's quite an interesting watch.
This Ibram Kendi character, he kind of like is the font of all bad ideas that are coming out of modern culture, is he not?
Yes, he is. And he's a good representation of what's happening in academia right now. It's been infiltrated completely by these activists. I just want to reiterate, these are not educators or activists. We need to get educators back into higher education. This is why higher education is so terrible right now. But yes, and he is a pro-Black activist. And what really upsets me about his writings and contributions and also this film is that, they have this, if you're for us, you're against them narrative. This no pun intended, but a black and white narrative that you have to be, if you're pro-Black, you have to be anti-white. There's no common ground. And it's really unfortunate. And, as someone who's obviously been through higher education as well, you see this narrative just being pushed constantly and trying to victimize Black people all the time, obviously, all minorities, women included to a degree, but I wouldn't say not as much as the Black minority. But it's really destructive. And in the film, they specifically say that this racism that's completely violent and dangerous to all minorities, especially Black people, is still rampant in America today. And that's a very dangerous narrative to hold, especially to these progressives that still believe that. And then you see them protesting Christmas lighting ceremonies and trying to get that canceled. And that's only going to rise, especially with the rise of BLM protests that's been happening in the last 3 years for this documentary to come out. In my usual, Austin,
But I imagine that thanks to Elon Musk that we'll see Pensac Daniela for quite some time. So follow her over there. Thank you very much, Daniela. Have a wonderful day. It's great to see you again. And we will be seeing you again next week at this time.
Awesome. Thank you.
On Sunday, December 7th, 1941, shortly before 8 a.m., Japan launched a surprise attack on the United States of America by bombing the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. The base was attacked by 350 Imperial Japanese aircrafts. Though the raid only lasted 75 minutes, the Japanese destroyed or damaged nearly 20 American naval vessels, including 8 battleships and more than 340 airplanes. Over 2,400 Americans died in the attack, and many more were wounded. While the attack on Pearl Harbor was a surprise, tensions between the US and Japan had deteriorated over the decade, in particular with regards to Japan's expansion into China. The plan for attacking Pearl Harbor was to destroy the US's Pacific Fleet, a move which would give the Japanese time to carry out its plans to keep control of the Pacific without US interference. The shock of the attack without declaration of war enraged the American public and rallied the nation to get behind a war many hoped to avoid. At the beginning of his speech to Congress requesting a declaration of war, President Franklin D. Roosevelt delivered this now famous line.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
On December 8, 1941, one day after the attack, the United States Congress declared war on Japan, officially entering World War II.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. That is today, Pearl Harbor Day. It is December the 7th, 2023, and I would like to invite you, our listener, to consider the implications of that sneak attack by the Imperial Japanese on the United States of America. You know, I reflect back on my travels to Japan earlier this year. Stephanie and I went to the Imperial War Museum, which is located in Tokyo, just a few steps away from the Imperial Palace. And some of the artifacts that are left over there from World War II, and it definitely has helped to shape my understanding of the Japanese mindset when it comes to World War II. I have been a World War history buff ever since I was a young man. When I was in college, I competed in a debate competition with the sort of a conspiracy speech that I had written, where I had done some scholarly research, and this was, more than 20 years ago, some scholarly research on the justification for the United States' entry into World War II, which of course started way before the context, the question of why what happened on December 7th happened has more to do with just the event. It has a lot to do with the events leading up to that event. And I think, unfortunately, what happens in our history classes is that you learn about dates and you learn about names, but we very rarely get the context that helps us to fully understand the bigger picture of what led the United States and Japan to go to war. Now, when I wrote that speech in college, my argument there, what I was arguing for, was to say that I believed that Franklin Delano Roosevelt knew that the United States was going to eventually go to war with Japan, and that he actually helped to steer the United States into that conflict. Part of that is true, and part of that I no longer believe. And that's because I've done 20 more years of research and homework and study and documentary viewing and deeper consideration into this conflict, which has shaped the world that we view today. My lovely wife, who's sitting over here to my left, asked me a question once about why I was so fascinated with World War II, because frequently whenever she comes down and if I'm watching something, it's typically a World War II documentary. If I'm playing a video game, it's probably a World War II game. Why am I so fascinated with this conflict? And I remember that the reason that what I answered to her was that more than any other world event, this event has shaped the world that we live in today. To understand World War II is to understand why the world is on the footing that it is now. It's to understand the United Nations. It's to understand why China is a communist nation. It's to understand why the United States and Japan are such good friends. It's to understand the post-World War II order. And that's why my fascination. But why did I change my mind over the years, my understanding of Franklin Delano Roosevelt's knowledge of World War II? Well, it is publicly known and true that Winston Churchill did want the United States to come in. He knew that the situation was desperate for the United Kingdom, and that one of probably the only way that Great Britain would survive would be if the United States entered into the war. That makes perfect sense. And of course, if you're in a war for an existential conflict, then it makes sense why you would want to have some allies come in and rescue you. So I honestly don't blame Winston Churchill for that, although many libertarians do. And I've read several critical biographies of Winston Churchill from libertarians who despise him. They've been the very first person to ever build a concentration camp. These great men of history did terrible things. As Daniela Pensac was talking about earlier, Thomas Jefferson had things that were worthy of criticism. And the leftists, of course, point to that and say, well, since Thomas Jefferson had slaves, he was full of shit, and therefore he should not be listened to. But that's not true. FDR's great evils were not committed during World War II. FDR's great evils were committed domestically with his domestic policies. There are a couple of things to consider when you think about the entry of the United States into World War II. One, well, there are several things, but one is the question of what would cause Japan to desire to attack the United States. Was it justified? I think unequivocally the answer is no. Two, did the Imperial Japanese properly warn the United States before they attacked us? No, it was a sneak attack. There's a great film that you could watch. It's not completely historically accurate, called Tora, Tora, Tora. A great film from the 1950s. And they just don't make movies like that deals with the Pearl Harbor attack. And the timeline is questionable, related to how the Imperial ambassador was to notify the United States that they would be declaring war on us. Of course, they attacked us before they declared war, which of course goes against the laws of war. But if there's something that you should understand or know about war, despite how many laws there may be, people are going to break these laws. War is chaos and anarchy without, and the winners are going to try the losers for war crimes. The head of the Air Force at the time, which was attached to the Army during World War II, General Curtis LeMay, said that if we had lost the war, what we had done to Tokyo and to Dresden, the firebombing of Tokyo and Dresden, we would have been tried as war criminals. That's probably true, right? And the victors write the history. So one has to consider both sides and the scholarly research of both sides in order to form a more fully articulate opinion about what happened on December 7th, 1941. But of course, one of the biggest reasons why Japan attacked the United States had to do with the oil embargo that FDR instituted against Imperial Japan. And many libertarians will say, well, this goes against our libertarian principles because we believe in free trade. But then, of course, the question lies, do we allow corporations in the United States to sell Zyklon B to the Nazis to be used in the concentration camps? And from an interpersonal perspective, if I refuse service to you, if I don't want to bake your Nazi cake, can you attack me? Is that an act of aggression? Is my denial of your service, if the United States denies oil to Imperial Japan to go and to rape Nanking, does that give Japan the license to attack our ships, our battleships in Pearl Harbor? No, it does not. So I think that FDR did know that conflict with Japan was coming, and he had intelligence. Remember that Congress and the President of the United States, yes, they may be blithering idiots. Yes, they do make mistakes, but they do have access to intelligence that most of us do not have access to. And what we have seen from FDR's papers is that he was aware that the Imperial Japanese were preparing for a potential attack against the United States, but his reaction to that would be what would make the United States' eventual conflict with Japan to be seen as virtuous in the eyes of history, or whether or not we would be those who would be branded infamous. My understanding of this conflict that started on December 7th, 1941, is that it did not start on December 7th, 1941. Japan had been threatening American assets for quite some time. And of course, the United States did have colonies in the Philippines at the time, going back to World War I and before. But the question of the United States' involvement in World War II and whether or not it was just, I do believe that FDR did not know that that sneak attack was going to go that day, and that it was an act of luck that the aircraft carriers were out to sea. So I would like to revise my speech that I gave in college all the way back in 2003. These are the consequences of the decisions that are made by men who have actual authority and actual power. I would invite you to consider the story of the sword of Damocles, which hangs above the head of all of those who have power. What is the sword of Damocles? I'll tell you very briefly before we go. The sword of Damocles is an ancient parable that has become a metaphor for the looming danger or a perilous situation, especially one involving a position of power. The story comes from a moral anecdote in ancient Greek culture that's usually associated with the court of Dionysus of Syracuse. So this is the 4th century BC tyrant of Sicily. According to the legend, Damocles was a courtier in Dionysus's court who expressed envy towards the king's immense power and luxurious lifestyle. But to illustrate the constant dangers that accompany such power, Dionysus offered Damocles the chance to sit on his throne of a horse's tail. This demonstrated the precariousness and the constant threat faced by someone in a position of power. For instance, variants like to run for president of the United States. Thank you very much for tuning into the show today. I'd like to invite you to visit ap4libertyshop.com. Don't forget, Martha's Mint Coffee is going to be running out of stock soon. So if you enjoy our Founding Flavors coffee and you want to get a chance to try Martha's Mint, it's going to be gone by Christmas time. So go grab a bag or two. Remember, the more bags you buy, the more you save. So you save 2, 3, 10%. If you buy 4 or more bags, you get the full savings. So visit ap4libertyshop.com. Don't forget, enter our custom sign giveaway, and we'll see.
Time, a year might seem.
Force behaviors, and at BlackRock, we are forcing behaviors.
Mao ordered his citizens to throw off the 4 olds. Old thinking, old culture, old customs, and old habits. So, your whole life went in the garbage overnight, no biggie. And those who resisted were attacked by an army of purifiers called the Red Guard, who went around the country putting dunce caps on people. Yeah, who didn't take to being a new kind of mortal being.
If you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team.
The ice cream makers declared the United States was founded on stolen indigenous land.
Well, someone should tell Target that, because they're now selling swimsuits with tuckums in the women's section of the store. And they even have a line just for kids.
Yeah, we're going to reach out to Ben & Jerry's and ask them how they can live with themselves as they operate a multi-billion-dollar company on stolen land while declaring other people give up their so-called stolen land.
This is the child section. This is literally the kids section. I'm next to a literal onesie that says whatever the hell. Sorry, but pride onesie that says whatever the hell. Sorry, but pride and toddler don't belong in the same sentence.
Good news! Starbucks will offer its workers reimbursement of travel expenses related to accessing abortion and gender-affirming procedures.
Kyle Rittenhouse was seen wearing a Black Rifle Coffee Company shirt, and they wanted to distance themselves from that individual. Key employees at the company also were donating to Democrats. Hafer doubled down on throwing many in his base under the bus, describing them as racist and a repugnant group of people.